unbelievable. Tens of thousands of people reacted in protest to WCIA's report outlining her salary. Oh, by the way, she hired her son as an executive to that board. You know what his salary was? $95,747.
And these people are making what, 25 cents an hour, the handicap?
They're making sub-minimum wage. They have special permission from the U.S. Department of Labor to do so. It's unbelievable. By the way, the thrift store also received $384,953 in state grants and contracts specifically set aside for a person with severe disabilities. One of the core aims of Goodwill's charitable purpose is to help workers with disabilities get job training and gain employment. In the letter announcing Durbin's departure, the board stated a renewed commitment to that goal. The statement reading in part, quote, "The board fully intends to seek out a strong, compassionate leader for our Goodwill organization who can energize our employees, expand our mission, and who can provide the mission-driven leadership necessary to positively impact thousands of lives each year in central Illinois." End of quote.
How much goodwill can we take?
Yeah. The organization may still have to hand over financial documents dating back to 2010 detailing how much it pays executives and how much it pays workers with severe disabilities who earn sub-minimum wages. Goodwill has a special certificate from the U.S. Department of Labor allowing the organization to pay workers with intellectual disabilities below the minimum wage. In a blistering letter scolding the nonprofit for abandoning its charitable mission, Senators Durbin and Duckworth demanded Goodwill hand over any documents that could justify hiring the now former director's son to an executive position and any documents that describe the nonprofit's efforts to progressing away from paying workers with disabilities below the minimum wage. The joint letter read, quote, "We also remain deeply troubled that the Land of Lincoln Goodwill Industries statement announcing the reversal failed to address whether after rehiring all 50 employees with intellectual disabilities, you will make sure all 50 employees are paid at least the state minimum wage of $8.25 an hour." End of quote. The letters from Senators Durbin and Duckworth specifically cites the WCIA news report, which was also shared by U.S. Senators Bernie Sanders, Independent Vermont, and Elizabeth Warren, Democrat in Massachusetts, both of whom are currently running for the Democratic nomination for president. This is great. And this only made it to the media because the mother of one of these disabled workers got the note and sent it to the media.
Yeah. Kind of like Epstein's case.
That's
one journalist.
That's the only reason, is because somebody took the spotlight and shined it, and the cockroaches ran.
That's how journalism works. Mm-hmm. One journalist reporter, not to get into Epstein, that's not my motive right here, stuck with the story. Something that's sat right in front of the United States for years. 26 people, Bill Clinton, or 26 times he flew down to this island. It takes a journalist being dogged now because the corporations aren't going to make room for any of that. Darren, you didn't have a douchebag, right?
No, I've got another update that I want to get to, though, real quick before we move on here.
Okay.
We've been talking about Michigan State Representative Larry Inman. Ooh. This is the guy that is alleged in a federal indictment to have solicited bribes from the Carpenters Union to get a vote in the union's favor to keep the prevailing wage law in Michigan.
We read about this guy and read, it's clear. It's right there in a post. You can't deny it. And what was his excuse? He had some kind of breakdown? What the hell was it?
I forget what it was. Well, I've got this update. This is by Lauren Gibbons, writing for MLive. This is dated July 18th. The Michigan state lawmaker accused of soliciting a bribe and attempting extortion has been stripped of his committee assignments, removed from the Republican caucus, and hasn't been showing up to cast votes. But Republican State Representative Larry Inman still holds his elected office, and it's unclear whether that will change anytime soon. Inman, Republican of Williamsburg, represents Grand Traverse County and was first elected to the State House in 2014. On May 15th, he was indicted on federal charges of attempted extortion, bribery, and lying to an FBI agent, and is accused of soliciting bribes from Michigan Regional Council of Carpenters and Millwrights and a union lobbyist in an effort to protect the state's prevailing wage laws. Legislative leaders and party officials across the state have publicly called for his resignation, although his attorney told reporters that Inman has no plans to resign after his May 28th arraignment. So this guy is still holding a job.
That's an indictment against the whole system. That's incredible.
On July 11th, a handful of Inman's constituents came to Lansing to deliver more than 400 signatures urging him to step down, joining members of the group Voters Not Politicians to encourage his resignation.
And why, folks? We're talking about bribery. We're talking about political bribery. And he's still there.
He apparently has a pretrial conference set for later this month. According to Interlochen Public Radio, prosecutors in the case recently requested a 30-day delay in Inman's trial. I don't know what that's all about. But, yeah, this is a guy that's under federal indictment for extortion, for soliciting bribes. And he's still holding on. Why hasn't Lee Chatfield ejected this bum from office?
That's where we get the expression caught red-handed. This red Republican was caught red-handed, and there's no question about it. And he's hanging on.
For our Michigan listeners, if you want to give House Speaker Lee Chatfield a call, here's his phone number. It's 517-373-2629. Call him up and tell him to expel Inman from the chamber. They've done it before. Todd Corser, Cindy Gamrat, does that ring any bells, folks?
Well, you mentioned douchebag, and that's one of the biggest parts of our show. And I was going to talk to you about this prophet, this Christian prophet named Mark Taylor, who said that if Trump is elected, he will reveal cures for cancer. And that's not all. And heals Alzheimer's. Now, I'd have gone for just cure for cancer. You didn't have to throw in Alzheimer's. But the guy's a prophet. He's called, but that's not going to be the douchebag. I think we need to nominate Trump himself, who stood in front of a complete fake presidential seal.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture of it?
Oh, my God. That was...
Instead of arrows, it's golf clubs. Did anybody notice that ahead of time?
The Eagle's holding golf clubs in its talon. And in Spanish, it says 45 is a puppet, something like that.
Right. And you wonder why Europeans are scratching their head? Do they think we're all high over here?
I guess they do. I don't know.
Oh, man.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Real quick, a recommendation. We give books sometimes. Here is a Netflix piece that came out yesterday called The Great Hack. It's about Cambridge Analytica. You think the Russians are responsible for Trump being elected? It will show you unequivocally that Cambridge Analytica that went to Facebook and took 86 million people's profiles, studied them, compared their friends' comments without anybody knowing this, and then came back at them with subtle messages and political messages. That had an impact on the election. This was an American, I can't remember the name of the company, that was the mother company to Cambridge Analytica, and they blow the whistle in this excellent documentary. And they're not Russians.
Yeah. A couple of quick stories that we need to touch on. We didn't even talk about Jeffrey Epstein getting beat up or whatever happened to him. The first story was that he was assaulted. Then the story was that he attempted suicide. We don't really know. We weren't there. I've got my own take on what this could be. You think he might have been roughed up for his silence?
Well, I read one account that said fellow prisoners heard blood-terrifying or blood-chilling screams. That sounds pretty authentic. I first thought it's just a ploy that you're going to try and get him transferred someplace. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. He may have met his fate there. Almost met it.
Yeah, maybe.
Karma.
And
some karma.
And speaking of, did you see that the U.S. Department of Justice is going to start executing prisoners again?
Why not? I told you, just get a basement in one of the government buildings in Washington, take them down there.
Well, the one I wouldn't object to would be Marvin Gabriel. You remember him, don't you?
Yeah.
Has killed several people, was convicted of murdering a woman and then dumping her body in a lake, weighted down with chains and cement cinder blocks. Weighted her down in a lake inside of a national forest here. That's how he got prosecuted in Michigan and given the death penalty, because it happened on federal property.
Is there a place for
this
it? We're
guy's
not
a
debate
scumbag.
That. But when I see our government today under the auspices of Trump's idiots, talking about opening up capital punishment, I get a little antsy.
Yeah. Then we have George Nader, who was a witness, as we were talking about the Mueller investigation. He was a witness. He's now has been indicted on charges of transporting a 14-year-old boy for sexual activity. So there's the tie-in to Jeffrey Epstein there. This goes back to 2000, Jack.
The story laid out in front of everybody for years. And there was one woman that kept it up and finally broke some evidence.
Yeah.
It has the potential of bringing the whole house of cards down. Cards like Bill, cards like Trump, cards like Andrew, Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
That when you have everything, that's what you do. When you want for nothing, fame and power are yours, and you got every beautiful woman you want.
Yeah.
Then I guess you get on a plane and you chase 14-year-olds around an island that Jeffrey owns.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it appears.
Yep. It appears that way. There's witness testimony to that. And one story that we're not going to have a chance to get to today, but we have it posted on our Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show, you can find the story here. This is by Obed Manuel, writing for the Dallas Morning News. Have you heard about this case, Jack?
Yeah, I have.
An 18-year-old kid by the name of Francisco Irwin Galicia was held in ICE custody. Well, actually, between ICE and CBP, Customs and Border Protection, I guess, as they call it now, was held for 23 days, not given any phone calls, not allowed to shower, nothing, for 23 days. I saw something that he lost 28 pounds while he was in custody because they're starving these people. This kid's a U.S. citizen. He was born at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas. It's a very lengthy read, but it's well worth it. You really need to read this story, folks.
That should bother people, Darren.
It should. Why isn't it?
I mean, seriously, we're seeing fascism right in front of our face. I sent back an article. You saw it when I was at the Berlin Wall. Mm-hmm. Saying 30 years ago, I was a teacher at Farwell High School, and one of my students went over and took journalism of that. The kids in the class, they knew how draconian a wall was. I think we forgot.
I think we've forgotten a lot of things in this country. Like you've said before, the United States of amnesia. It's just really sad that we get to that point.
We've got families split up. We've got kids that just 23 days without a shower. You might as well be in torture.
Yeah.
You've got women. I got at a Burger King, 2 women pull a manager over, and he's a Mexican, a Hispanic, and they say, go back to Mexico. They purposely call them over so they can say, go back to Mexico.
That happened
it's on Facebook.
That happened at a Tim Hortons over by Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're out of time for this week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack Prince.
For Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.